Hello, Dan. My name is Aya, also an English-speaking manager of the group, and today I'll answer all of your questions that you were interested in about our musical group Otyken. Thank you for the invitation to your podcast.
Well, thank you. Can you tell us a little bit about Otyken, the history, and how you all met?
Well, the history of creation of our group began around 2018. The idea came to our producer, Andrei Medanos. He sells bee products and he also heads the Museum of Ethnography in Krasnoyarsk, so he often communicates with tourists who have repeatedly approached him to see the performance of indigenous peoples with their authentic instruments and throat singing. Andrei himself comes from a Siberian village. That's where he found first two girls who learned to sing and play homemade instruments themselves. As Otyken's popularity grew and the number of our fans has increased not only around our country, the question of expanding the cast arose. So Andrei selected Otyken members according to the fact that we all should be representatives of small taiga peoples. This includes Chulymtsi, Selkups, Kets, Hakas, and Tuvince, and a number of other nationalities. What is more is that we should all have musical abilities, and that is obligatory in order to join the band.
I was doing some research on your group, and I noticed that there's less than 25 people that speak your native language. How are you and your tribe members, your elders, I would say, to the tribe, are handling and coping with this?
Well, there are some worries around this question, of course, but not that much. It's not that much of a problem as you suppose, because it's not that scary as it might sound like. There will always be people who preserve the culture of the indigenous people, and no matter what culture we speak about, some people will always protect and care the culture of indigenous people. We represent a great example of this. Otyken represents indigenous peoples of Siberia.
Can you tell us the band members' names? Because I cannot pronounce them.
Our group consists of Hakaida, who plays drums, Aiko, who plays bass guitar, Ach, who does throat singing, Azyan, she is the soloist of the band and she does vocals, Sandra does dance parts, Tsveta plays jaw harp, Kunchari plays egil, and Otamai plays homus.
How did you all decide to create your music and using ancestral native music incorporated with a modern sound?
Our music comes from nature. That's where we all find peace and inspiration to our songs. We are transported to the time when our ancestors lived and try to change it into more modern sounds, so the nowadays people would relate to our ancient roots. Mostly in our songs you can hear modern rhythms that are interwoven with ancient melodies, and that is what we defined as world music.
What part of Russia are you from? And also I notice your imagery is very strong statement of what you're wearing with tribal essence from your ancestral history.
We are currently located at the central Siberia of Russia, Krasnoyarsk region. And speaking about a statement of what we are wearing is that our costumes are based on the traditional clothing of the peoples of Siberia. Although they do not copy it exactly, we put much effort in the creation of our costumes so it would look as real as possible and true to our culture. The main rule is that the clothing should equally represent the image of Chulym, Selkups, Kets, and other indigenous peoples of Siberia. Sometimes we add something modern to our final look ourselves. It's around 50% of the final look.
I was doing some research on your music, and I noticed that you have a unique sound, a unique elements that combine your music, such as jazz, funk, a little bit of rock, mixed in folklore, and also you're singing in your native language. It sounds really great, a unique combination. Let's talk a little bit about this. Explain how this came to be.
Yes, in our songs we combine blues, funk, house, rock, and our ethnic rhythms, of course, in a modern sound. The song lyrics are usually about nature and its connection to people. But in general, the genre that we perform is folk pop.
Do you all have any musical influences from other groups?
If we speak about people who we look up to, there is no such person, mostly because we find everything we need, everything we're inspired by, in more spiritual things like nature, forests, traditions, our history, culture, and etc.
When I was listening to Storm, it has a very unique rock bass atmosphere. When you're hearing the pounding of those bass drums, that gives it a unique groove, accompanied by the vocals and her belling out those screams in the song, almost giving it a metal atmosphere.
In this song Storm, we used huge drums made of marl skin, and we think that's what gives it a unique groove, so to say.
This is the final question. What message are you trying to convey to your audience through your music and culture?
Speaking about the message we're trying to convey to our audience is that it doesn't matter where you were born, what your height, what your weight is, what your conditions were when you grew up, you will always succeed. Anyway, sooner or later,